Inheritance and Legacy. In Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, there is a passage in which Kundera, the narrator, pauses the internal narrative of the novel in order to reflect on the origin of its protagonist. And here's the excerpt. "And once more I see him the way he appeared to me at the very beginning of the novel, standing at the window and staring across the courtyard at the walls opposite. This is the image from which he was born. As I have pointed out before, characters are not born like people, of woman. They are born of a situation, a sentence, a metaphor containing in a nutshell a basic human possibility. I have known all these situations, I have experienced them myself, yet none of them has given rise to the person my curriculum vitae and I represent. The characters in my novels are my own unrealized possibilities. That is why I am equally fond of them all and equally horrified by them. Each one has crossed a border that I myself have circumvented. It is that crossed border, the border beyond which my own eye ends, which attracts me the most. For beyond that border begins the secret the novel asks about. The novel is not the author's confession. It is an investigation of human life in the trap the world has become." Kundera was writing characters and yet wrote about them as if they were people who he could never be and who were also his kin. Kundera's protagonists were comprised of his jealousies. In the passage, the author stands irrevocably side by side with his protagonist, cohabiting the page with him, and together, character and author comprise two types of ghosts. How different are these ghosts in kind? How important is Kundera's distinction between being born of a woman and being born of a situation, a sentence, a metaphor, to my understanding of my own origins and legacy? Am I not also composed of formulaic components that together delineate the range of behaviors you can expect of me? And have I not also inherited these components, which I have adopted in exchange for becoming a person? In 2015, Kundera's novel inspired me to write a play script called A Ritual Resuscitation of Eternal Lovers, which aimed to tease out this distinction between human and fictional character agency. The script is designed to be read aloud every now and again by a new pair of volunteer readers playing the part of Rosa and Lawrence, the eternal lovers. These performers will not have read the script beforehand and will know little about it. The configuration of reader, computer, and character, script, allowed me to treat the script as a kind of software that could be played out across the readers, who would form its substratum. The script specifies that readers sit on chairs facing towards each other, as in the image below, but besides this, there is only dialogue, no stage directions. In the dialogue, the characters Rosa and Lawrence discuss the span of their lives, which they experience as a kind of episodic falling asleep and being resuscitated with each new reading. The lovers grasp for dear life onto the human readers whose bodies and minds they have borrowed to achieve this temporary lucidity, but await with dread the inevitable end of the reading. As the human readers read the script, they too slowly realize that their mouths, voices, bodies, and consciousnesses have been hijacked by the fictional characters, that they have become vehicles for the lovers who are otherwise impeded by the silence of the page. Sometimes the reader's creeping smile or stumbling mispronunciation will undermine the presence of the characters. The reader momentarily comes to the fore, so that the audience finds they are perceiving 4 agents, not 2. The aim of the work is that with each renewed reading, the 2 characters increasingly come into their own, that a certain quality might emerge across idiosyncratic readings that we, as onlookers, can recognize only as Rosa and Lawrence, beings with peculiar arrangements for the playing out of their consciousnesses, but beings nonetheless. And here we have another still of a performance of this piece, but in a different location and time. The project suggested a strange possibility to me, that scripting, through its dual mechanism of code and expression, could potentially be embraced as a material for coaxing agents out of thin air. Of course, Rosa and Lawrence were not coaxed out of thin air, but out of that same staggering historical momentum from which I too have emerged. They are not only Rosa and Lawrence, they are also Tristan and Isolde, Romeo and Juliet, and all the other star-crossed lovers. And I am all these too. I house their quiet rhythms somewhere within me. One common feature of human and fictional agents is that they both have an inheritance and a legacy. In other words, both fictional characters and human beings are contextually inscribed by the cultural milieu of which they form a part. They also both cause lasting ripples in that milieu. In noting that social personhood functions as a kind of fiction, legally, medically, culturally, John Frau tempts us to consider the ontological similarities between real persons and fictional characters. Not only do fictional characters move us and become familiar to us, and not only do we engage with them in a cognitively similar ways to real persons, fictional characters teach us how to be persons. They are social constructs that enter our social purview and construct us in turn. This is made possible by the softness of character as software. It transmits seamlessly between creatures of biology and creatures of literature, eerily independent of the materiality of the substratum that runs it. From earliest history, the fictional characters that populate our stories begin to live among us and raise us in their image. Humans live with the ghosts of fiction and become ghosts of fiction themselves.